Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market. This is our daily show from Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. GMT. Every day of the week, we discuss all things to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to make money by leveraging the internet and its latest technologies. I'm your host, B-Check. I'm joined by my legendary co-host, Legendary. We are just messing around, doing all kinds of experimental things with the music, with the studio. Keep having to travel a little bit every now and again, so it means that we are working things out as we go, but we're delighted to come to you every single day. As usual, got some super exciting things to be discussing with you, namely the continuous pump on Solana NFTs. They just will not stop. Want to dive into that ecosystem a bit more and want to discuss Michelin too. My understanding is we do have some guests from Michelin with us today in the audience. Would love to hear some of their thoughts and reflections on their recent success. I mean, I think they've been cooking for a while, but I guess it's always nice to see the floor price reflect some of your successes as well. Just a reminder, we are live on X. Obviously, we are live on YouTube too, and we're going to get into the show in just a minute. Just a reminder, nothing that we say here is financial advice. This market is exceptionally risky. We don't know anything for sure, so please proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, how are you doing this Thursday morning?
GM, it is a fantastic day to have a fantastic Thursday. I'm quite happy about what's going on in the market. I see that my beloved ZTX bag is pumping as well. Michelin is pumping.
No.
Obviously, it is the
That's
title
no
of the
good.
show.
We were just talking off air how we are desperately wanting our other bag. We did a little bit of fudding of each other's bags earlier. I kind of like that. I'm not so happy about
but it
the
was
ZTX
off show.
thing.
That's not going on show. You can't fud my bags on the show. That's not how things work.
Got it.
I mean, you very much pumped your Madlads before the show, and I'm not going to fud them. But you have quite a high target for them.
Do you know what one of the things I'm thinking about, and always conscious now that we have a slightly bigger platform and we're talking about all this stuff, and I basically decide the headlines, I'm always trying to consider, in fact, the thing that happens is, like, if I have bags of something, I'm trying to think, should this really be included or should it not be included in the headlines? Like, I don't want to include things that I hold because I don't want to be necessarily like giving it a platform if it doesn't deserve the platform itself. So I try to make sure that other people have reported on what I hold, which gives me the confirmation, like, look, this is not me pushing something that I own. It's clearly been decided as newsworthy. So I think like Lucky Trader and a couple of people posted yesterday about Madlads breaking the 150 floor, and various things like that. So I'm trying to be conscious. I think I'm just picking quite well, to be honest, at the moment. Maybe that's what happens when you've been through it one cycle already. What are your thoughts about that?
So I think that it's one thing if you report about a price, like it's one thing if you say Madlads broke 160 Sol. Another thing is if you post Madlads will go to 5K Sol, and this is the reason why I think this is going to happen, and not really disclose that you're holding 100 of them. I do think that disclosing your bags is a very good thing to do. If I wouldn't be able to post about the things I hold, I basically couldn't post about anything because I have so many bags from the last years in this market.
Just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, Legendary has more than 2,000 NFTs.
No, I did sell a couple, like probably down to 1.8K or something.
What's selling a couple going to do? You got like it's 1.9.
It does exactly the one thing. You can say I have 2K any longer. I have 1 point something K.
Yeah, 1.9.
That was the mission that I wanted to achieve.
Yeah, it's absolutely outrageous. We have sorry, go on.
But I'm gonna add more today because, and this is a massive thank you to Sammy. He had an additional whitelist for the courtyard drop today, and I think Jack's not gonna like to hear that because I'm coming for the Venusaur. You're not gonna get it, Jack. It's gonna be mine. I saw that you posted it to manifest it, but I'm definitely manifesting that one harder. It's one of my favorite Pokemon, and I'm gonna pull it today.
God damn! Shout out to Sammy, one of our greatest friends of the show. Sammy, what's going on here? How did Legendary get this hookup, and why am I not involved?
Right, you're a bit slow. I chucked it in the group. There was one free going because the guy hadn't responded to me, and I needed to get the allow list closed. And yeah, so Legendary responded first, so you get the whitelist.
Are we gonna disclose what Legendary? Didn't you have to? What was it, like a Discord name or?
No, it's not my Discord name. It's my handle on Courtyard, which is KeckLord69. We can disclose that.
Always
Legendary
being
everywhere, but to be more subtle on Courtyard.
That's the one. So yeah, Kecklord69, good fun. Jack, your hand is raised. I guess you're kind of excited about this Bodogo's drop. Sorry, is it Bodogo's drop or is it a Courtyard Pokemon drop? Or is it a combination? I'm not sure.
It's a Courtyard Pokemon drop for Bodogos.
Go for it, Jack.
Yeah, exactly. So there's like 590 allow lists for if you own a Bodogo. And they were in your wallet, then you could connect that to Courtyard. And I was lucky enough to get one of those allow lists. It's definitely mine, Legendary. To prove this point, we were actually in Amsterdam, and I've got two stories here that I'll be really, really quick on. We were in Amsterdam at the Bodogos event, and they were giving out IRL like packs to rip with Pokemon cards in them, like actually, PSA and checked. And I got the Venusaur whilst I was there live. So I'm going to double down, and then I'm going to rub it in your face quite literally, like with the physical, and then also virtually, just bringing NFTs and IRL together in a seamless way. And then the second point is, whilst I was at that event, I was strongly considering picking up a Madlads just to get to the event. And me and Sammy were actually talking about that and thinking maybe even splitting one. Sammy, just an FYI, that was a 7K L we took there. It was 1,500 at the time we were looking at that. I went back and just, self-flagellation here, just went back to find out what that cost was. And yeah, it's now like 8.5K for any Madlad. And it was like 1,500 at the time.
That is not fun. That's not fun, Jack. I feel your pain. One of the things Legendary was telling me before, though, is that I think I'm becoming quite extreme at the moment, where if you to tell me that right now, my instinctive reaction is just like, doesn't matter. The top is not the top. I think I'm like infected with some super cycle disease where I'm just feeling like I would buy anything at the top right now. And that's not obviously financial advice in any way, and I'm not actually doing that with all of the things that I'm doing. It just feels like the market just wants to go higher, like broadly, and so that's one of the things. Although I did see that Suzu video which re-emerged recently, and for people who are not familiar, Suzu was the leader of the 3AC 3 Arrows Capital, and it's such a funny / horrific video to watch back in hindsight, where he's just like, I don't know, saying something like the top is not the top. This is the super cycle. If you're long, that's good. If you're short, you're not going to make it. All of that type of stuff. So you got to be careful with it as well, obviously.
We're still in the same super cycle.
Yeah, maybe. Look, we're going to get into actually all of the things that we've just touched on. We're going to get into Michelin. We're going to get into Madlads. We're going to get into a little bit of Solana stuff in general, figure out what's getting on. We're going to get into the main headlines of the show first, and then get into a broader discussion on all of those things. So let's get into it, starting with the headlines and some price action. We've got Bitcoin fairly flat, actually. Crypto's a bit flat at the moment. Bitcoin's at almost 38K. Got ETH down 1% at just over 2K. Got Solana chilling at $60. In terms of the headlines today, we have Madlads breaking the 150 Sol floor, and Solana NFTs across the board really continuing to pump. We have things like Tensorians up another 15% at 56. We've got Quex up 25% at 47. Kalanosaurs up 9% at 48. OK Bears up 50% in the last 24 hours at 30 Sol. So just across the board, absolute pump. I want to talk about that. And that's been day on day on day at the moment. It's going to get into that. Number two, we've got Michelin Explorers Club up 85% in 24 hours to almost 0.3 ETH. I'm going to disclose my holdings there in just a minute when we get into that properly. But I think they've just been really doing very well, delivering a lot of real stuff. So I want to discuss what those things are in a minute. And finally, this was a piece of news from yesterday. Ronaldo was sued for $1 billion for promoting Binance. The plaintiff claimed he's faced damages for which Cristiano Ronaldo is responsible. I want to get into that maybe a little bit later. It won't be the focus of the show, but might touch on that. In terms of some top sales in the last 24 hours, we had a Bored Ape Trippy Astronaut selling for 138 ETH, which is very, very high. We have an ACK Worthy selling for 16 ETH. I believe the floor now is 22 ETH. Remember, that was something we reported on the show a while ago, the drop with Avant Art, which was a 5K raffle. And that's it. That's the price action. Those are the headlines. Legendary, any numbers catching your eye across the market there?
I mean, quite a lot of numbers. Not going to dive into Solana or the Michelin news right now. On the other things, definitely the Trippy Astronaut seemed quite cheap for such a legendary ape.
Interesting. Yeah, it seemed. I think the person before the prior buyer had bought it for much higher. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but it's good to see the market wanting or things selling for higher prices than floor, because for a long period of time, all of the market seemed to collapse into either the floor, just like a small premiums to the floor. Mid rares basically collapsed. Maybe there was a little bit of a super rare market. Something I noticed yesterday as well that isn't in the text of the snapshot, but is something I noticed on the timeline, is like a lot of Mockaverse rares selling for like 5 ETH or 6 ETH or something like that. So it just feels like across the market, the rarity is starting to be respected a little bit more. So that is interesting for me to observe. But that's it. That's it from me. Let's get into probably the first headline, Legendary. Do you want to get into this Madlads move and what's going on with Solana NFTs?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you kind of set it up in a beautiful way already. It's not only that Madlads are above 160 Sol, have now, by doing that, also entered the top 10 of PFP collections. Sam NFTs had a post on that yesterday. There were also Creeps are now in the top 10 of NFT collections. But so did many other collections. OK Bears up significantly. The Tensorans up. Claynosaurs about to reach 50 Sol as well. We have seen a massive sweep on the Madlads, with someone sweeping 22 Madlads for 3.3k Sol. It's almost 200k. So not only is the Solana price, the token price, holding up quite well, it's just that across so many collections, there's a massive pump and increase in liquidity right now on Solana NFTs.
Completely agree. Can't argue with that. And the thing is, because we do this every single day and we're reporting on it every single day, we can feel the almost violent moves. I've heard other people who report on this describe moves in NFTs as really violent. And the moves are more violent because it's not like the coins where there's loads of liquidity. It, like, the supply crunch on NFTs can happen so fast and so hard that the moves can become just completely violent, as described. And that's what we're seeing almost every single day on these NFTs as people are diving into Solana. One of the questions I had, Legendary, and Jack, I see with your hand raised, definitely want to bring you in on this as someone I know who's been on Sol for a little bit and experimenting over there. Where do you think this market, this Solana NFT market, is being driven by people on Solana getting more, like, feeling richer as the price goes up and therefore becoming more willing to spend aggressively? Or is this a little bit of ETH money coming across, bridging across, and starting to move these markets?
I think it's definitely a combination of both, but I do think that we see ETH money entering, more ETH money entering the Solana space than we probably did last cycle, because last cycle we obviously saw the top of Solana at, what was it, 250, 260 USD. And that wasn't the most attractive value proposition necessarily when ETH was at all-time high as well, to just switch over because you already were writing massive profits. And now we still have that imbalanced situation where in relative percentages, ETH isn't too far away from all-time high. It's just a bit more than a double up. Like, I know that's a lot, but it's not as much obviously as Solana is away from the all-time high. Same about BTC. BTC gets closer to 40K now. It's what, 80% away from all-time high. So it is that notion of, you know, a relatively undervalued currency that probably drives interest. And the same thinking then also would apply for NFTs. I think it's something we spoke about for a long time on this show during the last couple of months, when we had Azuki, Memeland Captains, and all the other top collections on ETH being in that very, very narrow 4 to 5 ETH price band. And you saw someone break out of that the other collections would follow, because you would basically say Azuki Captains, it's all the same. So if 3 move, then the 4th one will have to follow, because it is relatively undervalued. And I think that we see this concept now with some of the ETH versus Solana NFTs, with some of the money flowing into that. And again, now that the Madlads are at the front of that, and even in ETH term prices are top 10 collection judged by the PFP's floor price, I think that helps to drive additional interest into the Solana ecosystem. Some of the new buyers might be priced out from getting a Madlad, which again is more expensive than a DGOT, for example, right now. So they do tend to look at some of the other projects. And then, I mean, in the case of K-Bears, they said, you know, they will have a lot of announcements in December. Definitely drives interest in their community, drives a bit of a move. Then you have new money entering in. They see they're already moving, might jump on the trend as well. So I definitely think it's the mixture of those two things that is currently driving prices.
Do you know, one of the things I agree with almost everything that you said. One of the things, I'm always looking for indicators, and one of the things I noticed very recently was good friend of the show, NFT Stats, Sam, starting to present the kind of top collections on, because previously top collections have just always been on ETH. There's been no real question about it. When you do those charts, checking people's floor prices, it's just been a bunch of ETH NFTs. But he's just recently started to put Madlads in there, has been included, and I think Claynosaurs was the second Solana NFT collection in there. And to me, like, when you just start getting included like that, it just becomes an indicator, and it just means that everyone's attention is going to be like, well, you know, they should be included in this conversation. And I think the really important point you made was this point about comparison, and arguably, arguably none of the NFTs necessarily have like intrinsic value, but you can kind of start to compare them with each other to determine their value. So for a long period of time, as you mentioned on ETH, there was like Captains, Azuki, maybe Moonbirds were a bit lower, but Captains, Azuki, Pudgy Penguins, all in this like particular bracket. And for a long period of time, I was just saying, one of my thoughts was, well, Pudgy Penguins should be higher than Azuki, for example. And actually DGODs was in that bracket as well. And more recently, I have said, when Captains got closer to DGODs, I was like, well, Captains have to be higher than DGODs. So in some respect, it's almost like you're kind of not trading the number, you're trading the position that the collection is in relative to another one. And look, I'm not saying that's a guaranteed way. We're obviously in a very new market trying to determine value here, but that's just one of the frameworks that I've been thinking about, and how I'm actually sort of applying when I think about these things. So hopefully that's useful to people as a framework of thinking about it. Legendary, any thoughts on that? Then want to get to Jack, who's got his hand raised.
Yeah, I think the position thought is very well, very, very, very good one. It's absolutely the way we like to think. I remember we spoke about how some artists in the NFT space, if you look at the total worth of their collection and compare that to the market cap of whatever the cryptocurrency, even if that comparison didn't make a lot of sense, it's an analysis, I don't know by whom it was that we went through. So even this is a kind of comparison that we like to make, right? Take the total portfolio of an artist, try to formulate a market cap from them compared to some other coin and be like, yo, this artist is top tier, he should rank higher than this random shit coin. And and this is even a stretched like comparison, but if you stay within NFTs, within PFPs, and you're like, I just think if these are the top 10 collections, and I think, I don't know, Claynosaurs are number 12, but they are doing this and that, and for those reasons, I think they should be better than DGOT. So this is the price that I would, think that they should have. It is definitely very accurate line of thought to follow, and I think it's a line of thought that a lot of people like to follow in this space. And again, it's something that I learned. It's not about like my own investment thesis or what I like to think, or if I think this is a good or bad comparison. It's just if enough people think that, if enough people shape that narrative and shape that way of thinking, it's going to drive the market, because we like those very simple line of thoughts. We like those very simple arguments, and if they're like compelling enough, it's exactly the same with Solana is relatively undervalued compared to its distance from the all-time high compared to Ethereum. If a lot of people think that, this is the narrative that's going to form. And marketing-wise, just one quick addition, it's something that you should be aware. Like if you're a founder, if you want to market your collection, you should find that narrative, and you should find that one simple sentence that works for you. It's just, this is going to be the last one, that because I don't want to sidetrack the conversation, but just recently remembered that one gaming NFT, don't even know its name, but they always talk about themselves. They are the Diablo 3 of Web3 gaming. And it pumped to, I don't know, I think it was a 0.3 or something. I have no idea what his name is because everyone remembers it as the Diablo 3 of Web3 gaming. And this punchline, I think, works for bull runs, it works for investment hypothesis, and it works for what actually then drives demand on the timeline and hype.
I like it. Nice set of frameworks and ways of thinking that you might like to apply when you're also thinking about this stuff for yourself. Can't wait to get into the Michelin stuff in just a moment. So FOMO boys, really looking forward to have that conversation with you in just a little bit, but we're going to spend just a touch more time on this Solana discussion. Jack, what is up? What are your thoughts on this Solana run?
Yeah, talking about announcing bags, 25 Bodoggos, 1 OK there. So just putting that out there before I go into my spiel. But you asked the question at the start, B-Check, which was, do we think this is Solana driven, just feeling a bit more rich, or do we think this is the ETH MFers coming in and saying, I want a taste of that because they are going up a lot higher? I've definitely seen on my timeline those ETH MFers start gobbling up these Sol NFTs. And I think specifically, if you look at Bodoggos and you look at the Nifty Crew and the the show that they host day to day, just this past 2 weeks, you've had Farouk sweep like 60, D's sweep 50, and they had OSF on the show yesterday, and they gifted him a Bodoggo. He didn't realize he had 90 Sol in his wallet because he'd not been on Phantom forever, and just swept Bodoggos with that 90 Sol. G Money mentioned yesterday, oh, by the way, I think I need to get into Sol. What collection should I get? And now he's in Bodoggo. And this actually isn't supposed to focus on Bodoggos. This is just to point out that people are seeing just a tremendous upside, and they are very clearly, these ETH guys are now coming in to the Sol side of things. I think when you look at that, if you want to sort of play by play of what I'm thinking of, it's okay, well, these ETH guys still aren't going to do the same amount of degenerate stuff that the Sol guys do in terms of Sol, because they already do that over at ETH. They just don't have the time to do it in both ecosystems. So what Sol projects are going to capture their attention, and it is the Madlads. It's the ones that are already near the top, but it's also, if you think of collections from the past that may have a lower floor, like OK Bears, I do think a lot of the upside on OK Bears right now is because they were a bull in the last cycle that Ethereum guys actually heard about, and I think that's why those collections will also do well. If you think of a Sol collection that you at all recollect as an ETH person, I think that's going to probably do you well this cycle. NFA.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like, one of the things I've been reading all of the Kobe articles again as I was speaking about this at length yesterday, because I'm doing a little bit more potential angel investing and trying to learn about FTVs, market caps, and all this stuff. And one of his articles is about scarcity in crypto. And the biggest takeaway is that there's not that much scarcity. The only thing that is scarce in this economy is attention. And I think that's kind of what you're leaning towards, right? It's like, look, given that these people are highly busy people, they've already got all of these bags on ETH, they've got a lot of collections and have actually become quite prominent people in business as well. I think maybe in the first cycle, everyone was trading a bit more. I don't know necessarily if all of the people who made loads and loads of money in the last cycle do trade as much anymore, because you kind of shift your priorities, right? Like if you've built a whole brand and a whole personality and a whole media ecosystem, like you just don't have the time to trade as aggressively anymore. So you don't have the time to do the research. So I suspect what you do is you find out the few places you want to get exposure, and that will be based on what manages to grab your attention in a relatively short space of time. So I do think that framework is a reasonable framework to apply, and then it just depends where you allocate as a consequence of that. Funky, welcome to the stage, great friend of the show. What are your thoughts on everything happening on Solana? And then we're going to get into Michelin just after that.
GM Modern Market fam, I only came up here I just wanted to make two quick comments. One, I love when Jack says ETH MFers. It was hilarious every time hearing him say that. And my second comment is, I think he's actually talking about you and Legendary. That's it.
I mean, to be fair, it's very important to be self-aware of who you are in the space. And it's kind of like that thing I was speaking about the other day of knowing being aware of where you are on the informational totem pole. Like, are you at the bottom getting the information from the source, from the founder, and then you can make some plays? Or are you the last person on Twitter reading the 75th retweet after everyone got it on Twitter, after everyone got it on Discord, after other people got it from someone, after Jack has announced it all, his thesis out on our Twitter spaces? So like, you need to be aware of that, but you also need to be aware, like, yeah, well, who actually am I? Maybe I am the ETH person. And what about the other people like me? So look, I think that's a really good point for actually to people to kind of look in the mirror and honestly be like, look, am I the person that is front running other people, or am I the person that is getting front run by everyone else and being super late? So that is a good point to make, just kind of to reflect on. Legendary, any final thoughts on the Solana ecosystem? I do think it's something which is going to keep getting more attention and is worth looking at. I think we've done a pretty reasonable job of summarizing what's going on over there at the moment and trying to explain why. Otherwise, we'll get into some of the Michelin stuff in a moment.
Let's move into the Michelin stuff straight away.
Let's do it. Okay, so this is pretty cool, actually. And I probably have to do a similar thing where I disclose my holdings at the same time. Like, I have a lot of Michelin NFTs, but I don't think I've tweeted about it at all since the beginning, because I don't want to be accused of like trying to pump something which I hold a lot of. And I'm so in some respect, I'm just really glad that they've kind of got the recognition for what they've been building independently, because I think they're doing a lot of cool stuff. And the mint was at a 0.05 mint. They've been shipping all kinds of cool stuff, like raffles for the MotoGP in Valencia. I know Sammy was actually there, so I'd love to hear his thoughts in a moment. And then I think the most recent raffle was for a Michelin restaurant, like of your choice, that you can go to. And I'm like, this is so good. The only terrible thing about it is that I still haven't won one, which is pretty horrific given how many that I have. So yeah, really, really interesting stuff. Want to go to maybe Sammy first, actually, because you've literally just been at the MotoGP. Would love to hear those thoughts and experiences. Then want to hear from FOMO, just to like get some reflections on what you've been building, maybe the key highlights as well. Sammy first.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't know how well known Michelin is in outside of Europe, but I mean, to me in the UK, when I saw them enter, I was like, this is absolute no-brainer. Like, this company's huge. I think the it's worth like 25 billion or something like that. And they've got a whole entire innovation team looking to enter NFTs. They have like this NFT initiative like in their global financial reports. I was like, well, this is an absolute no-brainer. Of course, I'm going to buy some. So I think I disposed of my holdings as well. I own a reasonable amount, not quite as many as BCheck or NFA in the audience, but still a fair amount, which enabled me to get one of the experiences in Valencia. So I think that the thing that I take away from that is you had such an amazing atmosphere, community building experience that everyone's come back from that trip. It's almost like a team building event. Where you strengthen the community. No one really wants to sell. They just want to continue participating. And I think something that I'm noticing with how the project's being run is something that you mentioned, BCheck, about attention. Maintaining that attention so that there's always something coming. And I think having that continued drop of experiences, whether it's Michelin star restaurants or stuff related to the MotoGP or other motorsports, it just makes sense. I mean, I had a chat with someone from Animoca yesterday, and he mentioned the same thing. Like, if you look at the Mochaverse floor, it's exactly the same thing where you sustain that attention, like you give people what they want, you deliver value to them, and ultimately they're just not going to sell the asset because the trade-off between holding the asset and redeeming those rewards versus selling it is just not worth it. So yeah, hats off to the team, and it's been an amazing experience. So that's probably some context as to why it's pumping.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Thanks so much for that context. And you made a really interesting point. I think one of the things I've wondered, maybe with Michelin, but maybe some other projects as well, is like, is this, and I'd love to hear it from Funky in a second, just from a perspective from across the pond. Like, is this as well known in the States? Is it like more of a European thing? Because as you say, like the Michelin brand for us in mainland Europe, well, yeah, just all of Europe is absolutely huge. So I take that point as well. FOMO boys, welcome to the stage. Absolutely delighted to have you with us today. It's not the first time we've spoken. Obviously, I think the first time was on the Whale Tank show, which is actually where I learned about your project and made the decision to kind of jump in. You did an awesome job explaining your vision and everything that you had planned. So congrats on that. Congrats on the kind of the mint out and the recent success. What are your thoughts and reflections of how things have gone so far? And maybe for the people who are trying to learn about you, like, what are some of the key highlights and key parts of what you want to achieve with Michelin NFT project?
For sure. Hello, everyone, and thank you, Legendary, to host this. Actually, I just stumbled on this, and I was like, okay, I have to jump in, So for me, I mean, I'm super excited, to be honest. I woke up this morning, I was like, yes, because it shows like the floor price reflects pretty much the work behind and also the community. It's been a really great journey, I would say, since the mint. I would say first thing is we have an amazing community that is really supportive and that is here for the good reason. And I think that makes a lot of change. And as for us as a team, we've really focused on, as you said, delivering constantly. And I think that makes the difference when you see that we have one raffle every week for different kind of things, but always things that bring value. Like, as you said, like Sammy went to MotoGP in Valencia. We've sent some others in France to visit the Michelin headquarters. We are sending some friends from Gojira to Abu Dhabi in a gastronomic event. We've done a free claim. We've done a raffle for like 10-star restaurant of your choice with a +1. So it's been only like 3 weeks or 4 weeks since the mint, and we've already delivered like a lot of things. So I think it just starts to show and reflect on the floor price and the activity, because at the end it's a small community, small supply with a lot of utilities around. And it's just a start. Right now, if I can say, we are focusing on the 2024 vision. We have a meeting to present the whole strategy and vision for 2024 with top management at Michelin mid-December. And so we are establishing budget. And also, it's pretty good to see, because with a big company like Michelin, we can really think forward like a year time. And I think it's amazing, it's totally different. Even for myself as an agency working on Web3 projects, we usually plan for like 2-3 months, but like it's rare to see a project like go for a year vision. And so it's super exciting. We have so many things planned. I could talk for hours.
Yeah, sure. No, it's really, really awesome, man. And one of the things that really struck me when I saw what you guys were actually executing on, because there's one thing about talking about stuff in advance, right? Like everyone can explain a vision, say what they would like to do. But one thing I noticed, like when the floor price was still more or less, maybe just a little bit higher than the mint price, was that you just kept having more stuff to do. Like it was kind of relentless. It's like every single week there seems to be something new for people to be excited about. And I wondered, like, two questions for that. How much preparation did it take for you to like have all of these things lined up? Like, do you have a calendar where there's like an event every single week that you know that your holders are going to get exposure to? And then second question, like, how long does that go for? Is that just in perpetuity, or is that planned up until the end of the year at the moment, or does it go further?
So it's a lot of preparation, as you said. For everything that happened until now, that was part of the plan before the mint. So we had already set up everything, and we knew already what we were going to provide until the end of the year. Apart from the free claim that we just released, like just because it was a gift that was not part of the vision. So sometimes we just add when we can. So for example, the Abu Dhabi gastronomic experience was not part of the vision, but Michelin just learned that they could have some spots, so we raffled them to the holders, you know. So we just add some stuff. So sometimes we have 2 raffles in a week. And of course, we have a calendar of every races that's to come for all 2024. But also, since we're working on the next vision, we are pretty much defining all the different utilities and benefits we want to provide over the year. So of course, there is things that are being validated by legal as for new mechanisms that we want to set up, or new things. Like, for example, we want to push the creation of alpha groups, but alpha groups like the Bored Apes one. So more like community alpha groups that are built and that support the project. And in return, we as Michelin, we would provide some sort of experiences for those alpha groups, you know, if they answer some criteria. So we want to push the community really. And of course, we want to keep 1 raffle a week for all 2024 and beyond, you know. So it's just like, I would say a lot of preparation, a lot of talk with Michelin team. We do have Michelin that plays the game a lot, and that is literally just going around all their partners and everyone in their ecosystem to see what we can add to the vision and add as benefits, you know. So just a lot of cool things to come, you know.
That's so awesome, man. Like it's it sounds really, really fun that you're able to plan all the stuff, but because of who you are and because of the power of the brand, that there will even be things on top of that there's just like spontaneous opportunities for you to be able to throw in, like as you go along.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, like when I was doing spaces before the mint, I was always saying like we are under-promising, because I don't want no one to be like, you know, a lot of Web2 company came to the space maybe the wrong way. And I know we had a lot of support, but also a lot of FUD when we came up with the project, you know, like Michelin's not going to do it. It's just another Web2 company coming. But I think we've done it the right way, and we're providing cool experiences. And since the beginning, we've under-promised, and I think now it shows because the community didn't expect this. And so it's just like consistent utility every week with an amazing community. And it's just like, it's amazing to see, you know.
That's awesome. I want to throw to Legendary in just 1 second. I think we've got some good comments in the comment section that we want to get into. Maybe he's got some thoughts of his own. But one final question from me, from my boys, is what did it feel like to maybe get around the table with some of your holders for the first time at the MotoGP in Valencia? I know Sammy was there. I know some other prominent holders were there. Like, is that something that's also part of the experience? Like, is it more, right, we're going to send people away and they're just going to be able to enjoy stuff by themselves? Or will there be more types of things where, no, it's going to be the holders together going to places and enjoying experiences?
No, for sure. So unfortunately, I wasn't there because I'm not like internal to Michelin. So it was Michelin team that was there. So it was Theo that is at the top of the project. And I think from what I know, because I've ate with him like 2 days ago, he told me it was amazing, like just to be able to connect with the community. And I think they went to bars and restaurants and just to party a bit also. So what really cool time. I hope I will be there for the next ones. And in the vision, of course, we're planning one physical event for the community only, maybe at the end of the year or something. So this will be an opportunity for me. But since I'm working on the project, I don't participate in the raffle, because if I win, I don't want people to think it's biased or something,
Absolutely.
So, I know Web3, I know how it goes. If I participate, even though I'm a holder and I win, like people will say like it's we manipulated it or something. But I don't participate,
Yeah, completely understand, man. We know how it is in this space sometimes. Legendary, want to throw to you. I can see Sammy with his hand raised. Definitely want to hear from you again, Sammy, in just a second. Want to throw to Legendary first for his thoughts and maybe some shout outs in the comments, maybe some interesting questions.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a couple comments. Sammy has a fan club in the comments. Hugh just saying Sammy is so brilliant. NFApe says, I'm here because of Sammy. He's hot. NFApe also says, I love that Michelin is not a bubble, it's a tire. And K Sensei says, seeing the run up when mintable Michelin guide. So definitely some good comments to be shouted out.
Just to precise, like NFAP is one of our biggest holders, and he was also in MotoGP Valencia with Sammy. That's why they are like that.
There we go.
I thought that. I definitely thought that.
We need to change the title of the YouTube show. Quality rises. Madlads, Michelin NFTs, and Sammy. The cream is rising to the top. Sammy, what are your thoughts on your little fan club going on in the comments, and what else did you have to say on the MotoGP?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know about the fan club, but yeah, just on the MotoGP, I think the thing that I loved about it was that it wasn't just like NFT holders together. It was we had our own, I guess, NFT section some of the time, but you'd also get integrated within the wider team. So there's people from Michelin there. There was some of their partners were there as well. So if you're really into motorsports, like this would have been an incredible networking event just to kind of break out of the NFT space and kind of push into that tire or like that innovation space within the MotoGP or whatever. So I think like you got backstage access, VIP, you got to go to like the paddock tour. So you went to Valentino Rossi's team, walked around that, like could ask some questions. So I think that's just like an experience you wouldn't necessarily get outside. It was more like a unique experience that is like it's valuable to people that are interested in that. And all of the guys that were there were very passionate about motorsports, and that's kind of why they bought the NFT. So it's just great to see value driven back to them that they really appreciate.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I just don't know where you can get that type of unique experience at the moment, which I think is one of the really cool things about the project. Final disclosure on it is that, yeah, I think to be clear, I think I have more than 20 of them at the moment. So, but one of the reasons I'm very comfortable speaking at length about it is because they're doing so much good stuff. It's very tangible, very real, very good stuff going on, and therefore very happy to spotlight them with the appropriate disclosures. So that's an awesome discussion. So happy to have had FOMO boys with us and Sammy to get into some of those details with what's cooking at Michelin. Let's get into the final headline in just a moment, but before we do that, we're going to hit the Web3 roundup and the news from the Creator Corner. As always, it's pinned up top, it's in the snapshot, where we're going to get you up to speed with what else has been happening in the last 24 hours in the NFT market. Let's do it. Number one, Yuga Labs to include a 12-fold ordinal as prize for the next solver of the moon puzzle. That's a pretty significant prize. The 12-fold floor currently is 0.85 BTC, which is $32,000. So very, very significant there. Number two, Journey Crypto announces yield of 3 to 4% of all other side fragments. This is for people who are playing Legends of the Mara, and Journey Crypto is like one of the most significant holders. They have 1% of all other deed ownership, and they've yielded 3 to 4% of all the fragments. Interested to see how their strategy plays out. Next, DGods announces feedback feature to help push ideas and feedback. Lucky Trader reported that DGods and Utes holders will be able to help prioritize products and features, provide feedback, pitch ideas, and more with latest feature from Frank and the team. Next, this is quite a big raise. Cross-chain messaging protocol Wormhole announces a $225 million raise at a $2.5 billion valuation. Olympio Crypto says that Wormhole was one of the 2 solutions selected by the Uniswap Foundation for Uniswap's cross-chain governance, beating out Layer 0 and other proposal solutions. And I believe there's a little bit of airdrop talk around that. People were trying to join the Discord yesterday. I tried, couldn't get the early roll. But yeah, just one to keep on top of as well. Getting into the creator corner, this is a cool mint. Transient Labs announced mint by the Bored Ape artist, All Seeing Seneca, which is going to take place tomorrow, or maybe that was today. I don't know if I read it yesterday and it was said tomorrow, but is there going to be 2,880 pieces, and they're going to mint at 0.22 ETH each. So, and it looks really cool. Looks very, very cool. Very interested to see how the market responds to that, actually, given the provenance of the artist. And finally, Zora announces no need for crypto or wallet to start on their platform. Now you all need is an email and your imagination. No wallet or crypto required. Zora always trying to push the ways to get people involved on chain with crypto, with pushing their creativity and reducing the barriers to entry. So that is always interesting to see. Legendary, that is the Web3 roundup and the news from the Creator Corner. Where do you want to take this? Do you want to take this to the final headline, which is about Ronaldo getting sued, or do you want to take it to any of those other pieces of news?
Let's get into the Ronaldo headline. Actually, want to hear more about that.
Let's do it. So, I mean, on some level, this is a fairly straightforward piece of news. It was that Ronaldo has basically been sued for up to like $1 billion in the States by someone claiming to have incurred significant losses as a consequence of his promotion of securities. Obviously, everyone knows by now that Ronaldo has a fairly prominent partnership promotion with Binance. He's been doing that since, I think, 2021, had dropped one set of NFTs first. I believe there was a second set as well. And there's just been continued kind of media with Binance even in the last few months. So it's an ongoing partnership. I'm sure he is very well compensated for that. But this it's very confusing to me when I see pieces of news like this, where people seem to want to go after the celebrities who have partnership deals with crypto companies or any type of company for their own investment decisions. We saw this after FTX as well, where I believe there was a class action filed against some of the celebrities who were paid by FTX, and that might have been anyone from was it Larry David and what was Tom Brady's ex-wife? Was Shaquille O'Neal wrapped up in it as well somehow? Like, just a bunch of different famous people who are paid to promote, and they seem to be on the hook for the actions of the companies which they realistically don't know everything about. And the way I would want to tie this in and make this useful to people is because people know I used to be a commercial lawyer in the UK, one of the biggest law firms in the world. And I used to do some gambling law. And in gambling law, it seems to be the case now that the gambler, the user of the platform, has so much protection to the extent that if you tell the gambling company that you do not want to gamble anymore and you want to be blocked, they have to block you. And it means that if they ask to come back, you're not allowed to let them come back. And the only way you can let them come back is if you go through like a really, really strenuous process of like making sure that they're okay to come back. And for me, I do understand why maybe there should be a process, but the scale has tipped in such a wild favor to the user to the point where they no longer need to take any responsibility for their own decisions, and makes me kind of worried actually for people like us, Legendary, who are going on this show saying not financial advice at the start, but then obviously talking about numbers. Like, this is one of the main things we do. We talk about what we think about everyone on the panel does that because we're trying to provide value, but we know, like, people should know by now that the things that we say are not guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. We do not know anything for sure. This is a crazily insane market, and yet there are these people who will go to court to try to sue you for something that you said or promoted, and take zero responsibility, absolutely zero, for their own actions. It's pretty wild to me. Want to hear just your kind of thoughts and reflections on that first, then want to go to Funky, who's got their hand raised, and would love to hear maybe context from the US side of things.
It's fascinating to think about that from, you know, a society's perspective. But I mean, I absolutely understand the need for customer protection, consumer protection. But as you said, by exaggerating on that end, just end up having a bunch of citizens, people who are not willing to take any responsibility for anything. If you look at two things that stood out for me in Austrian law, one is if you are renting an apartment, you are not supposed to negotiate things in the contract, because if you negotiate them, and this is not a made up thing, and also you don't have case law in Austria, there's actually a specific text that specifies that. If you negotiate certain things, it indicates that you've read the contract, and then you can't just say, oh, I didn't read the contract, and hence I'm surprised by specific clauses, such as, do you have to paint the walls white when you leave? This is the thing with contracts and terms and conditions, is that there's a law in Austria that says you can't have anything in those contracts or terms and conditions that someone might perceive as surprising or just bearing a big disadvantage to them. So if you say that you don't want to paint the walls white in, you know, the apartment before you leave it, and it's going to be rented to the next person, but your contract stipulates it is your duty to do that, and you start negotiating that, your landlord might insist on that, and you don't have a way to negotiate or opt out of that. Whereas if you just read through it and don't, you know, raise a flag about that, you can make the point after you end the contract, oh, that was unexpected. There was a surprising clause. I didn't read the contract, hence I'm not going to do it. And this is, legally speaking, you will be doing the correct thing by doing that. So if customer protection gets to the point where we're like, oh, you don't read to need shit, don't read to need contracts, T&C, because you expect to be protected by the law all the time, it doesn't create a society of people who will be, you know, functioning adults who can take their own responsible decisions. And I don't like that. I think, again, customer protection is important, but we are going overboard with so many things. One very last thought on that. You mentioned gambling. In Austria, for example, most of the online gambling sites are not legal, but they're still accessible. They're not VPN blocked. So if you gamble on any like foreign site, you can basically say, oh, I didn't know this was a foreign site, so for that reason, I want to claim back all the money that I lost. And you will be able to do that. And we have law firms that are specialized in doing that and following that law. And it is absurd. It is just a system that gets to a very, very absurd point, and is also like easy to be abused, because you could gamble on the sites and claim money back that you lost. But in case you win something, you're just going to withdraw it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think particularly when it comes to crypto, I know these things exist. This type of mindset has permeated and gone into other aspects of society too. However, particularly in crypto, if you can't accept the risks and rewards involved, I don't know, you can't have the rewards. Like, you can't be in a game where you can make 10 to 100x so quickly and not accept that some of the stuff will go to zero. Like, that's just part of the game. It's part of the thing that you sign up for. And I think it's really important to remember that. Funky, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Quick one as we draw to the end of the show, for maybe a stateside perspective.
Yeah, I'm just going to say this all started with one hot coffee from McDonald's, 15, 20 years ago, when that lady sued, because the coffee was too hot. And we've created this incredibly litigious society here in the States that will just it's so ridiculous. I mean, everything that you guys just said, I'm not going to belabor the point. Show some responsibility. Take some actual, you're the one pressing the button when you're making the trade. Don't blame Cristiano Ronaldo. That's just preposterous. So anyhow, I just wanted to come on here and just say that I apologize on behalf of my fellow Americans because these are the crazy kooks who are literally getting litigious over stupid things like this. So
The thing is,
America,
it's not just
sorry.
Americans though, Funky. It's kind of coming everywhere. Maybe to a certain extent because your culture does permeate everywhere. Like people look to the States so often for guidance, and particularly in terms of culture, I think it does permeate elsewhere. My final point, as we draw to a close, is that I wish I had that extra hot coffee, Funky, because one of my main complaints, and maybe I'll get litigious over this, sometimes coffee's too cold. One of the things they've started saying in the UK is that if you want a hot coffee, you got to ask for it to be extra hot. I'm like, what? What on earth are you talking about? My absolute expectation is for the coffee to be piping hot from the get-go. I don't want like a lukewarm, colder coffee. It needs to be hot. But now I'm going to start asking for extra hot if I have to. But guys, it's been a fantastic show. It's been an extra hot show. No lukewarm shows from us. That is the conclusion. We have been delighted to have been joined by Sammy, FOMO Boys, Jack, and Funky up top on the stage, making the top contributions. We do this every single day, 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. GMT. Get you up to speed with everything that's been going on in the NFT market in the last 24 hours. Have a wonderful day. We will see you again tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.